The Ohio State Buckeyes just got unexpected training camp news. Let's talk about it. My name's Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are the Big Ten guys. Tune in daily for news, insights, analysis, anything you could ever want Big Ten. This is the channel for you. Aaron, tell them what they got to do.
Guys, it's simple. And gals, all you got to do, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and hit the like button. And if you hit that like button, listen, I guarantee you the University of Michigan will never play another football game again.
Hey, come on now.
Yeah, I meant that. Anyways, that can't happen. Maybe. You never know. But anyways.
Worth a shot.
Worth a
Might as well.
shot. If this is your first time watching, I'm a Michigan State fan. Paul's a Michigan fan. Before you hit the exit and before you move on, just know we're not biased. Hear us out. So the good and unexpected news out of training camp comes at the wide receiver position. And we're talking about wide receivers at Ohio State. Listen, there's a lot of great ones. And right now in the NFL, on your fantasy football team, I guarantee you, if you're an Ohio State fan, you know you're biased and you're like, I gotta get at least one of those guys. Because I know Michigan State, the few NFL players we have, I try to get them on my team.
I hate Ohio State, and I want Ohio State wide receivers on my fantasy football team.
You got to do it. But a big up-and-coming guy for the Buckeyes right now is Brandon Inniss, a slot guy. He was the number 5 wide receiver in his recruiting class. Number 3 was who, Paul?
Carnell Tate.
So a lot of great wide receivers, and we haven't even mentioned, which we are now, Jeremiah Smith. But Brandon Inniss, if you look at the trajectory of, let's just say, Jamison Williams, 2 years, kind of on the back burner for the Buckeyes, says, I've had enough, because you could argue he was on one of the best teams, wide receiver rooms ever in college football. Unreal talent. He ends up going to Alabama, having a great year, ends up being a first-round pick. Brandon Inniss, guess what? He's been kind of sitting in the shadows for 2 years, third year, ready to pop off. And we all know he has that potential.
Yeah, most schools, if one of your top recruits isn't playing till he's a junior, it's a red flag, and you're probably already calling them a bust. But Ohio State has proven their wide receiver room is just so deep that sometimes you got to wait 3 years for your opportunity. J-Mo never even got one. Going into year 3, he knew, I'm still probably not going to be able to play. And then he went for 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns at Bama. And, I'm not promising Brandon Inniss is going to do that just because Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are going to be getting a pretty large portion of the target share too. But this is an incredibly talented kid. And the fact that he hasn't played till his junior year isn't because he doesn't have the skills to play. It's just because he had a Emeka Egbuka in front of him, obviously Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. He's finally got his chance to play, and I think he's going to be a breakout star for them this year. And then there's also been talk about he's kind of been like a vocal leader in the wide receiver room as well, which is big time. Can never have enough leaders on your team.
Which is really big, especially, again, coming from someone who, going to a big blue blood program like Ohio State, being a highly coveted recruit, and kind of having to be humble, swallow your pride, and kind of wait your turn is really cool to see. Hey, it's my turn. I'm stepping up. Not only am I going to do that on the field, which I think he will, we think he will, but as well as a vocal leader on this Ohio State team that is full of a lot of leaders.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament to, I hate to give them this credit as a Michigan fan, but what a good coaching staff Ohio State has right now. Most schools, if you are a recruit who is as highly sought after as Brandon Inniss and you're not playing year 1 or year 2, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not playing by year 2, you are gone.
Yep.
But the fact that he was willing to stay till his third year and patiently wait for his opportunity speaks volumes to the fact that Ohio State is wide receiver you right now.
100%.
And if you're a top receiver in the country, that's who you want developing you.
Listen, wide receiver you, and no one's even close right now. No one's even close. And so what do you think, Brandon Inniss, what do you expect of him this year for the Buckeyes? Comment below. Now, we go from that to, I think, a kind of interesting, story when we talk about Julian Saiyan. And obviously Julian Saiyan, a very sought after quarterback in his recruiting class, initially going to Alabama, signing with Alabama, enrolling there, going to Ohio State, And even as early as February, people almost whispering like, hey, Heisman potential, which is crazy from a guy who literally had 12 passing attempts, most of those against Michigan State, and because they were blowing them out. I don't want to talk about that. But him having a quarterback competition with Paul who? Lincoln
Kienholz. And, a lot of people just assumed, I think I'm one of them, just assumed that Julian Saiyan was just going to be the guy. But I think people forget Lincoln Kienholz was pretty sought after as a recruit as well. Not quite as high as Julian Saiyan, but he was a high-end 4-star. And he's a junior, so he's had 2 years in this Ohio State system learning and growing. And I think there was one guy, not saying that he's going to be as good as this, but somebody the other day compared him to Joe Burrow in terms of his trajectory, saying, like, Joe Burrow was just a 4-star. He kind of didn't seem like a guy you'd expect to get a lot from his freshman, sophomore year. But then all of a sudden, you really started to see him develop and mature into an elite passer. And there's some talk that Kienholz is kind of developing in that way too, and really pushing Julian Saiyan for the starting job.
And we got to mention too, Kienholz, the #1 recruit in the state of South Dakota, and I would guess possibly maybe the only recruit in South Dakota, but not often do you hear that. So interesting kind of battle going on. I think that Julian Saiyan is going to be the victor. I think right now, a lot of times what happens is the media and sports personalities try to blow things out of proportion and say like, oh, he's not ready for the challenge. He's not settling in. He's nervous. He's realizing everything that's on his shoulders. And I think a lot of times that's just brought in because it's like, okay, it fits the narrative. And I think here that, Kienholz, I'm not saying he's not good, but I think Julian Saiyan is for sure the future of the Buckeyes. It's not Kienholz. So again, what's going to happen? I think Julian Sayan's going to win the job. Who knows after this year? Could Kienholz leave? Sure. He could go try his luck somewhere else because he won't be starting for the Buckeyes if Julian Saiyan takes the reins. So comment below. Tell us what you think. Again, you might think just like kind of like us, might be just kind of a funny story.
Yeah, I think you could probably find pretty much any elite QB and find an article like this from their first year as a starter where it's talking about them throwing a bad pick in training camp. Like, it's his first year as a starter. He's going to make mistakes. It's going to be ugly sometimes, but his talent's going to win out. And regardless of who the starting quarterback is, Ohio State is going to be elite this year. They are actually one of 5 teams in the country who are projected to be a favorite in every single game. And that is a schedule that has Texas on it. That is a schedule that has Penn State.
Purdue.
And Purdue. But a lot of people think Penn State is the favorite in the Big Ten. Vegas does not. Honestly, at Illinois is not going to be an easy game. Lord knows that team up north has given you some trouble in the last couple of years. But Vegas says we like Ohio State in all of them.
Yeah, that's no surprise. That should be no surprise to anyone. Just because, again, I think this schedule in some aspects are favorable. But Texas, that's not going to be an easy game. That's a playoff team. Michigan with Bryce Underwood, an actual quarterback, unlike last year, they just kind of rolled someone out and were like, okay, just try to throw the ball, we guess. And then Penn State, who a lot of people say, hey, they could win the national championship. And they're coming for blood, obviously, picking up Jim Knowles as their defensive coordinator, paying him a king's ransom to come on over to Happy Valley. And so it's very impressive being one of 5 teams favored in every single game.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule. And I think the big thing is the 2 teams you want to have at home, you get at home, Texas and Penn State. That's huge. I think it would probably be flipped if you were on the road, but you're not. And I think Ohio State has as good a chance as anyone at going undefeated. 100%. I hate to say it.
No, yeah. Well, listen. Let me just say this. As a Michigan State fan, I would love to be back to Brandon Inniss in a position where it's like, oh, we got this big time recruit. You're going to have to wait your turn because we got a lot of talent. Brandon Inniss, if you came to Michigan State, son, we would put a crown on your head and you'd be starting right away, buddy. Yeah. And so again, that's not a bad problem to have, as well as trying to figure out, Julian Saiyan, Keen Holtz, who's quarterback. Again, Saiyan going to take the job, but they're good problems to have.
Yeah,
they're good problems.
Which one of our top 100 recruits is going to start here?
and if not, you can always tell a good program as well by their incredible special teams. Look at Alabama's dynasty. In every time they won the national championship, even years they didn't, their special team was so good because it was chock full of 4 and 5 stars that were waiting their turn. Gosh, again, if you're a 5-star and you come to Michigan State, we roll out the red carpet and we'll give you the key to East Lansing, which I don't know if you want, but we'll give it.
Nobody's wanted it yet.
No one's wanted it yet. So, anyways. Tell us what you think schedule-wise, Brandon Inniss-wise, or Lincoln Keenholtz, as well as Julian Saiyan, that whole situation. Comment below. Tell us, Buckeye fans, what you think. Paul, you got anything else?
Just hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. We got a lot more Big Ten and Buckeye content coming.
Don't miss out. Peace.
See ya.